Hey, Lynn, thank you so much for being here today. We're so grateful that we get to interview you. I would love if you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Courtney. I'm thrilled to be here. So I'm Lynne Golodner. I'm an author, a writing coach, a marketing entrepreneur. Done lots of things in my career, and I live in Detroit with my husband, and I have four young adult children.
Love that. I would love if you could tell us what your books are about.
Yeah, so I've had 9 books published, two poetry collections, six nonfiction books, and my latest book is my first novel. It's called Woman of Valor, and I'm super proud of this story. I've been working on fiction and aiming to write fiction for a really long time, and I'm finally here and working on a goal of a book a year. Woman of Valor is a story about a young woman who chooses to become Orthodox in Judaism, and she's really happy with her life, with her identity. She's married to a great guy, has 3 kids, and everything's going really well until her oldest son is abused at school. And she's really devastated by how the community reacts. She and her husband react in different ways. And at that time, an ex boyfriend finds her online and comes back into her life. And so it's all a question of what will she decide? How will she move forward? How are these things resolved? And how does she keep this identity that's become so important to her when she's faced with challenge and disappointment? That's what that book's about.
Amazing. What inspired you to write your book?
Well, one of the things that's really central to my author brand is writing about compelling Jewish characters. So my Jewish identity is really strong for me, and that was a deliberate choice. I write a lot of creative nonfiction as well. I have essays that have been published, all over the world, and I continue to do that even as I'm writing books. And in creative nonfiction, I'm writing about my experiences and things that I've done or known, and a lot of that, I'm not religious, but it centers on Jewish identity and relationships and things like that. And I just felt like it was something I wanted to do. I wanted to create really strong characters that just happen to be Jewish, and something about their Jewish identity weaves into their strength as a person. And so this story in particular, I had actually started writing it in 2011 and sort of stalled and then picked it back up in 2021. And I wanted at that time to write a story about somebody who makes a choice that isn't the expected choice. Like, you don't expect somebody who's raised secular to choose to be religious. Usually it's the other way around. And so that was interesting to me to sort of play with, what drew her into that community. And then in every community, there's good and bad. So when you face a challenge, how do you reconcile your choice with this roadblock or something that comes up? And even though I'm not Orthodox, I did spend a decade as an Orthodox Jew, and I left that community, but I made a choice to create a story about somebody who loves that community. So that was a little bit of a challenge, but I also felt like there are so many books out there that portray being religious as not something uplifting, and I just didn't want to add to that. I wanted to write a happy story. In the end, it's there's happiness even though there are challenges. Um, and I wanted to portray a community in a way that a lot of people just don't know it, and maybe give sort of a window into a world that could be foreign for a lot of people.
Amazing. When writing your book, who were you thinking of when it comes to who your book is for?
Well, that's a good question. I'm a marketing expert, and I always teach authors how to market and build their audience. And then, of course, it's really hard to pinpoint who your audience really is. I knew that this book would be of interest to mostly women, likely in the midlife range, maybe older as well. I don't think this is necessarily a book that like young people are going to be interested in, which is fine. But I do think that it's a book for people who really think about their identity, who are curious about different cultures than their own, and just want to learn about other communities, and also want to read about strong women. I think that's something that's of interest to a lot of women at midlife, and so I think that's the audience. And I'm happy to say that even though this happens to be a more religious story, tons of people who are not Jewish have read it and love it and said that they really learned a lot about a world they never knew. So that to me is a huge bridge builder, and I'm really excited about that.
Amazing. How long have you been writing and what made you really sit down and start?
So my mom says that I was 6 years old when I started writing, and I'm going to trust that number. But really, as long as I can remember. And I have sitting behind my desk a corduroy journal from the 70s that I used to like write stories and skits and poems in. And so it's always been the way that I make sense of the world. It's the way that I figure out what I think about something. Um, I really, really think through the words. And so I've always written. I never thought that creative writing could be my career path. So I was a journalist for a while. I worked in marketing and PR for a while. But I made that decision about 5 years ago to really pivot and focus on my writing first and foremost. And that's my goal is to be writing a book a year and make money by writing books. And so wish me luck. We'll see if I get there.
Love it. What is your schedule like when you are writing a book?
Well, my schedule is the same, whether it's a book or I'm writing essays. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I write for 3 to 4 hours in the morning. And on Sundays, I spend a couple of hours working on the business of writing. So submitting essays for publication or maybe editing or, you know, um, working on the marketing or things like that. Um, but I really try to start the day when I'm at my freshest and my most creative with my writing. And then the rest of the time, like afternoons are devoted to client work, other marketing things, teaching classes. I teach a lot of writing classes. So that's pretty much my schedule.
Amazing. What do you need in your writing space to help you stay focused?
Well, I like to have a candle that is pretty and flickering and doesn't have an overpowering scent. I like to have a really good cup of tea. I have some playlists on Spotify that I go to for sort of mellow music that I can write to. Sometimes I'll light incense, sometimes not, but I really like the house to be quiet and no distractions. So that's why early morning is good for me.
Love that. What is your favorite writing snack and drink?
I always start with a cup of tea that has foamy milk in it. So like I use the like frother, whatever. Um, I don't know if I really have a snack. Sometimes I'll put in a little bowl some like nuts and some chocolate chips or some raisins with it and just like munch on that. It is definitely a risk working at home because I think I'd go to the kitchen way more than I would if I worked somewhere else. But that's probably the go-to.
Love it. What type of books do you personally enjoy reading?
I love reading historical fiction. I don't write historical fiction, although my next novel has an historical angle to it, but it's contemporary. But I love reading historical fiction from, I'd say, 18th century forward. I don't really like going further back than that. Um, I also like contemporary novels, but not if they're snarky or like trying to be funny. Like I really like relationship, poetic, really meaningful stories.
Amazing. Love that. Are there any books or authors that inspired you to become a writer?
Well, I think that I was a writer before I could have thought about that, consciously. But I'm always looking at writers that I read and that I meet to learn from them. And so I'd say that two of my favorites continue to be Diana Gabaldon, who wrote the Outlander novels, and Rosina Lippi, who writes as Sarah Donati, and she wrote the Wilderness series. And they're just really talented writers. Their books are beautiful, but they're also riveting. And I mean, anything they write, I'm just going to scoop it up. I can't wait.
Love that. What books did you grow up reading? Did you have an all-time favorite?
Well, I really liked Hemingway, and I actually teach a class now about writing like Hemingway, The Art of the Sentence. But I liked that. I liked Herman Wouk, Wouk. Marjorie Morningstar was really a formative book that I read in middle school. I also like Chaim Potok. So, like, My Name is Asher Lev and other books like that. I tend to like to read a lot about culture. So, whether it's my own culture, Jewish community, that kind of thing, or other really rich cultures. Like I've read books by Indian writers, so I'm learning about India. I've read a lot of Native American writers, a lot of Scottish writers that just really portray the culture in such beautiful ways. So I really love to read a lot about, identity and grappling with the community that we're born into and the communities that we choose.
Love that. On the other side of that, now as an adult, what are your favorite series or authors that if they come out with something, you automatically grab it?
I think I said that earlier about Diana Gabaldon and Rosina Lippi or Sarah Donati. For sure, them. I also really like Rochelle Weinstein's novels. She's a friend of mine, and she just came out with an amazing book called "What You Do to Me." I have a lot of friends who are writers, and a lot of them are really good. And so I feel like, I mean, if you could see my house, you would see stacks of books to be read, like in every room. It's kind of a sickness, and so I hope I don't keep doing that, but I kind of think I will.
Love that. What would you tell someone just starting out with reading again?
Um, well, I think my best advice would be if you start a book and it doesn't grab you, put it down and pick up another one. There are so many books out there. There's just so many books in the world. And I feel even if I've purchased a book, even if I purchased a hardcover, I don't feel I need to finish it if it's not grabbing me. I give it to someone else or I donate it. And so I think find the books that really speak to you and don't waste time with ones that don't.
Love that. On the other side of that, what would you tell someone just starting to write their own book?
Well, the only way you write a book is by writing, and so you need a routine. You also need a community to support you because you're going to go through the saggy middle of the book and you're going to go through imposter syndrome and self doubt. And you need to have friends who say, keep going. So, being part of a writing community is super important, whether that's taking classes or, I offer a free monthly write along every month. So, it's just a way to like connect with people online and community and write with them. But there's no replacement for just writing on a regular basis. Also, you can't write 7 days a week. Like, you've gotta build in some breaks, otherwise you burn out, and, don't fall in love with your writing because it it's gonna need many drafts. You're gonna need to revise because writing is 80% revision. So, nobody writes a perfect first draft, they're mostly messy, and you have to sort of be, humble enough to know that you're gonna have to take your time with it before it's ready to go.
Love that. What's one thing that people are generally surprised to find out about you?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I think people see me as a really strong person, and I think they might be surprised to know I get very emotional about things. And so, yeah, and that, I just don't reveal that in a lot of cases, but I think that's a surprise. Um, I don't know. I'm not sure what else, they might be surprised I love to cook. I couldn't wait to be a mom. That was something I was really eager to do when I was younger. I also love gardening and like literally digging in the dirt is a very happy place. So that might be surprising too.
Love that. Is there anything you would like to say or add?
Gosh, no. I mean, I think the best thing you can do for your writing career is to meet other writers and just keep growing. Like if you've never gone on a writer's retreat, do it. Go somewhere and see what that's like and what it does for you and your writing. Um, join cohorts and communities where you see the same people again and again and you support one another. Like it's really powerful. And a lot of people will say, "Oh, I can't spend the money or something," but it's an investment in you and your talent. And what better thing to invest in? So I think you have to believe that your voice is worth it in order to rationalize spending time on it. And then once you do, it's really self-fulfilling. So go for it.
Love that. Where's the best place for readers to find your book and books? I know some readers love signed copies. Is that an option and the best place to connect with you?
Yeah. So, I mean, my books are everywhere. They're online wherever you want to buy them. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Powell's, all the places, bookshop.org. My website is lynnegolodner.com. So you can find a lot of things there too. If you buy Woman of Valor and you want me to sign a copy, I can send a book plate. So you just have to get in touch with me and I'll give me your address and I'll send it out. Um, and I'm on social media everywhere. So if you go to lynnegolodner.com, you'll see all the links to my social media. You'll see all the opportunities to write with me. Um, and, follow me everywhere and I'll follow you back. And also, I will say, listen to the Make Meaning podcast because that's a podcast I've done now for 5.5 years and I feature authors and people in publishing. So it's worth a listen.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here today. We're so grateful that we got to interview you. We'll be sure to drop those links in the show notes. That way everyone can find you. And again, thank you so much.
Thanks, Courtney. It's been a pleasure.